Hello friends, Tanya here for Trinity Stamps, and today we are going to make an epic Father's Day card. We are going to use this adorable Norse Gnome stamp and die set. I've taken the main image and I'm going to stamp it with some Copic friendly or alcohol marker friendly black ink. I'm only doing one inking. And I'm using some heavyweight white cardstock because I find that works best for not only my die cut plans for this, but also for the coloring. It gives it a little more bulk for the ink to absorb. And I'm going to use purple and gold as our colors, and he is going to be a blondie because that just fits with that whole Vikings Norse feel that I'm going for. And I do use 3 colors here for his beard and mustache. That honestly is the very biggest portion of this image, which is awesome. I love that there's not a lot of thinking involved in putting this together. I am going to use the purple to represent or to color all of the fabric parts of his his gear. And we'll save the neutral tones for the battle axe and the shield. I'm adding some yellow highlights to the tops and bottoms of the accessories, and the band here is going to be yellow also. I only use 2 colors for each of those. You can adapt your colors to whatever your needs are. You can change the skin tones, you can change his hair color, you can change all of the colors, just like any image. That's one of the beauties of being able to color in your own images and totally personalize your project. I think that's part of why we all get into this hobby, is to be able to make very personalized cards and gifts to give to family and friends. And honestly, the artistic expression that it allows us, I really enjoy just the creative process. So even if this never made it to someone, I would still have gotten exactly what I needed from it. Look at that. There's our little Viking all colored. Now, I did mention that I only stamped it once and didn't care how good the impression was. And that was because I am putting it right back in the MISTI, which I didn't take my stamped image out of, and make sure I line it back up carefully with the edges of the MISTI, and I'm stamping it a couple more times to get some very nice sharp lines for our finished image. I did color another one without all of the purple and gold on all of his accessories, just the hat, because sometimes all that purple is just a little too much. I wanted to add a little more detail to the band on his hat. So I pulled out some glimmer ink. You could use gold watercolor ink. You could use Nouveau crystal drops. You could use jelly roll pens. There are lots of ways to add metallic details to your projects. Just use whatever is in your stash and you will find that you can really embellish your colored images really easily. Now let's stop and talk a little bit of the specificity of the theme of this particular card. You could take this in a whole nother direction. Do not think that you are limited to just what I am showing you today. You could certainly take this image and give him a seafaring background, like with the layering Peninsula stencil set here, and you could create a mountainous background behind him, or you could go in another direction and put a woodland theme behind him using this Slimline forest border die set. You can use this stamp set in lots of different settings. There are lots of different people that enjoy Viking themes. There's not just the football team, but there's also a show, and then just all of the nerds out there. Think of all of your friends that love the Renaissance Festival and all those kinds of things. Nerddoms are everywhere, and I think that they are far more common than you might imagine. Now we're going to take this personalization another step further and add a personalized sentiment. I have the Modern Embossed alphabet die set here, and they are about 1 inch wide and about 1 inch tall. They will make any sentiment you can dream up. I did test fit this to see if it would fit on my 5x7 card across the front, and it just fits. I'm going to die cut all of these letters from some black cardstock, and I actually did it 3 times for each letter for well, there's 2 A's in this sentiment because we're doing Father's Day. So I did 6 A's and 3 for all of the rest, and we're going to stack them to make them just a little more dimensional. This is a fancy fold card, I guess you would call it. However, it doesn't have a lot of bulk. So I'm not afraid of adding a little with the sentiment. We're going to use this, what is this called? Slimline Center Burst die, and we're going to use also the Stitched Strips die, which also is a slimline. This is the modern embossed A7 stack. And I die cut our created background here with that largest die because I want it to cover the entire front of our 5x7 card. And I trimmed it down. This is a heavyweight white cardstock card base. That is a 5x7 card base that I trimmed down to 4¼ inches high. This started out as a pretty arbitrary measurement because I just wanted to be able to get 2 cards out of 1 piece of cardstock, and you can't do that usually with a 5x7 card. I do want to give the top edge a little treatment of some kind because I do like a nice finished edge. That's why we pulled out the Slimline Strips dies, and I die cut one of the thinner stitch stripes from the shimmery gold cardstock. I did the same with this Center Burst die, and I'm going to do it twice because I want to thicken this up a little bit. I want there to be 2 layers because there isn't going to be a piece of cardstock behind all of this. It's going to be standing above that card base. Now I'm laying this on my mat. My mat has conveniently a 7-inch square right in the middle marked off, and that makes it easy for me to line this up to do a 5x7 card. I'm taking the negative for that Center Burst die, and I'm taping it down after I taped my cardstock to the base or to my work surface because I didn't want it to shift. And I'm just going to inlay all of these pieces, and the negative will help me keep it all easily lined up. I don't have to do any fussing or fiddling. All the thinking is done for me, and they just slide right in there and create this perfect die set. Now we're going, or this image. I wanted this burst of gold to come up behind our Viking. I'm going to peel off that negative, and there we have this amazingly gorgeous component of our card with very little effort. Next, we're going to take our little Viking, and I want to center him after I've made sure that this is the right size. I want it to fit in my 5x7 envelopes, and I die cut an extra piece to go on the back. As you can see, that is the back of this is not very pretty. I had stamped my image and then cleaned my stamp and took it off the MISTI. Because I wanted to stamp it again after I colored it, I had to re-stamp my image and not take my image off of the MISTI. I have cut 2 extra pieces to go behind our little fella, and part of it will go just behind the top portion to make up for the thickness that we're missing from the card base, and then the other piece is a full piece that I will adhere to the back of our little gnome. Now we're going to add, the sentiment. I have all of these letters that I've die cut and glued together, and I'm going to use my T ruler to make sure that we line all of this up. Now I should have been a little more careful and put that F all the way to the edge, but I didn't, and we'll still make it work. What I'm doing is adhering each of the letters and making sure that when I push down on the T ruler, because there's still a little extra space between the card base and the edge of the ruler, I push down on the T square and then slide my little letter down against the T ruler to make sure that it's nice and straight. And I did have to readjust the placement of my letters because I had put them a little too close together at first, or I didn't put them close enough together. Now I'm going to center the A using our T square ruler again, and you can see that I've taped the T square ruler to the card base, not the card base, the work surface, so that it doesn't shift while I'm adhering each of these letters. I'm just going to get the last couple letters down, and then let's not forget that apostrophe. It is part of the alphabet die set, and it's perfect because it's not plural Father's Day, it's Father's Ownership Day. We are going to use the Sentimental Simply Sentimental die and stamp set to add something to the inside. I am using this Love die, which actually is 2 dies. It's a shadow die and then 1 die that cuts out the individual letters of LOVE. I'm adhering those to the shimmery white shadow portion, and then we'll adhere that to the inside of the card. I didn't want that center burst to be just this random piece that doesn't play into both the front and the inside of the card. So I want to make this large sentiment the focal point of the inside of the card, which is perfect. Why would you send a Father's Day card if you don't love the person you're sending it to? So we will adhere that to the inside of the card right in the middle of that center burst. I do add a little scrap of cardstock to adjust for that height difference in the center there. I have to make sure that it will be completely behind this die cut though. So we'll adhere that down. I don't worry much about the change in height in the lower portion below the word love. And then I'm going to take a sub-sentiment and be very daring for me. I'm stamping directly on the inside of the card without using the MISTI. Next, we need to finish the sentiment on the front. I almost forgot to include that in the video. I'm going to take this this stamp from the Norse Gnome stamp set that says, "May thou havest an epic birthday." We're not going to use the birthday portion. However, because the die cuts out the bubble cuts, the entire sentiment, we can trim off the word that we don't want. We're going to heat emboss this. I used VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink because it is a pigment ink and will stay wet long enough for the embossing powder to stick to it before we can heat set it. Now I'm going to die cut it with the coordinating die. The Trinity stamp sets, almost all of them have coordinating dies available that will cut all of the sentiments also. This is just, I love it. Chef's kiss. I keep hearing people say that lately. It is perfect. This is just perfect. And then I just trim off the word birthday so it's completely customized to fit the idea of my card. Now I'm going to add 1 little sliver of coaster blank, which is just simply a pulp board that's thinner than foam tape, thicker than cardstock. It would be about the same as 2 or 3 layers of heavyweight white cardstock, and it just simplifies things. Just going to adhere that right below our little Viking, and that is our card. What do you think? I think this card is amazing. It is going to go to one of my father-in-laws for Father's Day, as long as I remember to send it in the mail. And I really enjoyed creating this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please take a moment to do that now. And if you're interested in any of the supplies that I used today, check that description box below. And I would love to hear from you what you think of this technique. Until next time, bye-bye.